The Tsar's brother, Michael, said to Rotsianko, "The whole family knows how harmful Alexandra Feodorovna is. Nothing but traitors surround her and my brother. All honest people have left. But what should be done in such a situation? That is exactly what is to be done." The Grand Duchess Maria Pavlovna insisted in the presence of her sons that Rotsianko should take the initiative in removing the Tsarina. Rotsianko suggested that they consider the conversation as not having taken place, as otherwise in loyalty to High Oath he should be obliged to report to the Tsar that the Grand Duchess had suggested to the President of the Duma that he destroyed the Tsarina. Thus the ready-whited Lord Chamberlain reduced the question of murdering the Tsarina to a pleasantry of the drawing room. At times the ministry itself came into chair opposition to the Tsar. As early as 1915, a year and a half before the revolution, at the sittings of the government, talk went on openly, which even now seems unbelievable. The war minister, Polivanov, only a policy of conciliation towards society can save the situation. The present shaky dikes will not avert a catastrophe. The Minister of Marine, Grigorovich, is no secret that the army does not trust us and is awaiting a change. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sazonov, the popularity of the Tsar and his authority in the eyes of the popular mass is considerably shaken. The Minister of the Interior, Prince Sherbatov, all of us together are unfit for governing Russia in the situation that is forming. We must have either a dictatorship or a conciliatory policy. Session of August 21, 1915. Neither of these measures could now be of help. Neither was now attainable. The Tsar could not make up his mind to a dictatorship. He rejected a conciliatory policy and did not accept the resignation of the ministers who considered themselves unfit. The high official who kept the record makes a short commentary upon these ministerial speeches. Evidently, we shall have to hang from lampposts. With such feelings prevailing, it is no wonder that even in bureaucratic circles, they talked of the necessity of a palace uprising as the sole means of preventing the advancing revolution. If I had shut my eyes, remembers one of the participants of these conversations, I might have thought that I was in the company of desperate revolutionists. A colonel of gendarmes making a special investigation of the army in the south of Russia painted a dark picture in his report, thanks to propaganda chiefly relating to the Germanophilism of the Empress and the Tsar. The army is prepared for the idea of a palace revolution. Conversations to this effect are openly carried on in officers' meetings and have not met the necessary opposition on the part of the High Command. Protopopov, on his part, testifies that a considerable number of people in the high commanding staff sympathized with the idea of a coup d'etat. Certain individuals were in touch with and under the influence of the chief leaders of the so-called progressive bloc. The subsequently notorious Admiral Kolchak testified before the Soviet Investigation Commission after his troops were routed by the Red Army that he had connections with many oppositional members of the Duma whose speeches he welcomed, since his attitude to the powers existing before the revolution was adverse. As to the plan for a palace revolution, however, Kolchak was not informed. After the murder of Rasputin and the subsequent banishment of Grand Dukes, high society talked still louder on the necessity of a palace revolution. Prince Yusupov tells how when the Grand Duke Dmitry was arrested at the palace, the officers of several regiments came up and proposed plans for decisive action, to which he, of course, could not agree. The Allied diplomats, in any case the British ambassador, were considered accessories to the plot. The latter, doubtless upon the initiative of the Russian liberals, made an attempt in January 1917 to influence Nicholas, having secured the preliminary sanctions of his government. Nicholas attentively and politely listened to the ambassador, thanked him, and spoke of other matters. Protopopov reported to Nicholas the relations between Buchanan and the chief leader of the Progressive Bloc, and suggested that the British ambassador he placed under observation. Nicholas did not seem to approve of the proposal, finding the watching of an ambassador inconsistent with international tradition. Meanwhile, Kurlov has no hesitation in stating that the intelligence service remarks daily the relations between the leader of the Cadet Party, Milyukov, and the British ambassador. International traditions then had not stood in the way at all, but their transgression helped little. Even so, a palace conspiracy was never considered. Did it in reality exist? There is nothing to prove this. It was a little too broad, that conspiracy. It included too many and too various circles to be a conspiracy, merely hung in the air as a mode of the upper circles of Petrograd society, as a confused idea of salvation or slogan of despair, but it did not tighten down to the point of becoming a practical plan. The upper nobility in the 18th century had more than once introduced practical corrections into the succession by imprisoning or strangling inconvenient emperors. This operation was carried out for the last time on Paul in 1801. It is possible to say, therefore, that a palace revolution would have transgressed the traditions of the Russian monarchy. On the contrary, it had been a steady element in those traditions, but the aristocracy had long ceased to feel strong at the heart. It surrendered the honor of strangling the Tsar and Tsarina to the bourgeoisie, but the leaders of the latter showed little more resolution. Since the revolution, references have been made more than once to the liberal capitalists Guchkov and Tereshchenko, and to General Krimov, who was close to them, as the nucleus of the conspirators. Guchkov and Tereshchenko themselves have confirmed this, but indefinitely. The former volunteered in the army of the Boers against England, the duelist Guchkov, a liberal with spurs, but have seemed to social opinion in a general way the most suitable figure for a conspiracy. Surely not the worthy Professor Milyukov. Guchkov undoubtedly recurred more than once in his thoughts to the short and sharp blow in which one regiment of the guard should replace and forestall the revolution. Witt in his memoirs had already told to Gushkov, whom he hated, as an admirer of the young Turk methods of disposing of an inconvenient sultan. But Guchkov, having never succeeded in his youth in displaying his young Turkish audacity, had time to grow much older. And one important, this henchman of Stolypin could not help but see the difference between Russian conditions and the old Turkish conditions, could not fail to ask himself, will not the palace revolution, instead of means of preventing a real revolution, turn out to be the last jar that looses the avalanche? May not the cure prove more ruinous than the disease? In the literature devoted to February Revolution, the preparation of a palace revolution is spoken of as a firmly established fact. Milyukov puts in thus: its realization was already on the way in February. Denikin transfers its realization to March. Both mention a plan to stop the Tsar train in transit, demand an abdication, and in case of refusal, which was considered inevitable, carried out a physical removal of the Tsar. Milyukov adds that foreseeing a possible revolution, the heads of the progressive bloc, who did not participate in the plot and were not accurately informed of its preparation, talked over in narrow circle how best to make use of the coup d'etat in case of success. Certain Marxian investigations of recent years also take on faith the story of the practical preparation of a coup d'etat. By that example, we may learn how easily and firmly legends win a place in historical science. As chief evidence of a plot, they not infrequently advance a certain colorful tale of Rotsianko, which testifies to the very fact that there was no plot. In January 1917, General Krimov arrived from the front and complained before members of the Duma that things could not continue longer as they were. If you decide upon the extreme measure, replacement of the Tsar, we will support you. If you decide, the Octobrist Shidlovsky angrily exclaimed, "There is no need to pity or spare him when he is ruining Russia." In the noisy argument, these real or imaginary words of Brusilov are also reported. If it is necessary to choose between the Tsar and Russia, I side with Russia. If is necessary, the young millionaire Terechenko spoke as an inflexible Tsaricide. The cadet Shingarev spoke, "The general is right. An overturn is necessary, but who will resolve upon it? That is just the question. Who will resolve upon it?" Such is the essence of the testimony of Rotsianko, who himself spoke against an overturn. In the course of the few following weeks, the plan apparently did not move forward an inch. They conversed about stopping the Tsar's train, but it is quite unknown who was to carry out that operation. Russian liberalism, when it was younger, had supported the revolutionary terrorists with money and sympathy in the hope that they will drive the monarchy into its arms with their bombs. None of those respected gentlemen was accustomed to risk his own head, but all the same, the chief role was played not by personal, but by class fear. Things are bad now, they reasoned, but they might get worse. In any case, if Gushkov, Tereshchenko, and Krimov had seriously moved toward a coup d'état that is practically prepared, mobilizing the necessary forces and means that will have been established definitely and accurately after the revolution. For the participants, especially the active young men, of whom not a few will have been needed, will have had no reason to keep mum about almost accomplished deed. After February, this will only have assured them a career. However, there were no revelations. It is quite obvious that the affair never went any farther with Krimov and Gushkov than patriotic sighs over wine and cigars. The line-minded frondeurs of the aristocracy, like the heavyweight oppositionists of the plutocracy, could not find the heart of a man by action the course of an unpropitious providence. In May 1917, one of the most eloquent and empty liberals, Maklakov, will cry out a private conference of that Duma which the revolution will sweep away, along with the monarchy. If posterity courses this revolution, they will curse us for having been unable to prevent it in time with the revolution from above. Still later, when he is already in exile, Kerensky following Maklakov will lament, yes, enfranchised Russia was too slow with its timely coup d'état from above, or of which they talked so much, and for which they prepared so much. She was too slow to forestall the spontaneous explosion of the state. These two exclamations complete the picture of how, even after the revolution had unleashed its unconsiderable forces, educated nincompoops continued to think that it could have been forestalled by a timely change of dynastic figureheads. The determination was lacking for a big palace revolution, but out of it there arose a plan for a small one. The liberal conspirators did not dare to remove the chief actor of the monarchy, but the Grand Dukes decided to remove its prompter. In the murder of Rasputin, they saw the last means of saving the dynasty. Prince Yusupov, who was married to a Romanov, drew into the affair the Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich and the monarch's deputy Purishkevich. They also tried to involve the liberal Maklakov, obviously to give the murder an all-national character. The celebrated lawyer wisely declined, supplying the conspirators, however, with poison. A rather stylistic distinction. The conspirators judged, not without foundation, that a Romanov automobile would facilitate the removal of the body after the murder. The Grand Ducal coat of arms had found its use at last. The rest was carried out in the manner of moving picture scenario designed for people of bad taste. On the night of the 17th of December, Rasputin coaxed into a little party, was murdered in Yusupov's maisonette,